Aloha, welcome back to another episode on Alaka'i, the podcast. My name is Lexi Langley. I'll be one of your hosts today, and I'm here with, you guessed it, Eli Hadley. How are you doing today, Eli?
Doing good. New semester started.
Yeah, yes. How are you? Today was first day, yeah?
First day, yeah.
Did you have class today?
I did.
How was it?
I has a lot of forms, add, drop, and everything, but just weird. I graduate in December, so it's weird to think about the changes that are coming.
Do you feel like you've had a nice break, or do you feel like you're already tired of school?
I think I don't know if you should ever get tired of learning, but like I don't know. It's a weird feeling just knowing that I'm almost done.
For sure.
2 more semesters to go.
Well, congratulations. Today we have a really awesome guest, you guys. His name is Brother Martins. He is a religion professor here at BYU-Hawaii, and if you have had him in a class, you already know how awesome this episode is going to be. We are super excited to have him on here, but we will have him just introduce himself. Brother Martins, if you just want to tell us where you're from, what your official title is, I guess, here at BYU-Hawaii, and maybe some things you enjoy.
Oh, okay. Is this on?
Yep, we're going. We're rolling.
Okay, so yes, my name is Marcos Helvécio Martins. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I have been here at BYU-Hawaii since the year 2000. Over the years, I have been department chair, dean of religious education, member of academic planning committees, member of strategic planning committee, also promotion review committee. I've done a lot of things, but since my mission, I came back in 2014. My wife and I came back 2014. I've been kind of although I served again as a dean of religion for a while, and now my title is really professor of religion and leadership, which is kind of a nice, comfortable position to be in. Not a whole lot of forms and special requests or anything, fewer meetings, so I like that. So I teach, as you mentioned, religion classes. I used to teach managerial leadership classes also years ago for the School of Business, but that was in a previous dispensation. So now I teach marriage and family, church organization and leadership, and Doctrine and Covenants usually. So these are the courses that I usually teach right now. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I have a question because I've taken 2 of those. I've taken Doctrine and Covenants and the church organization and leadership class from you. Which class is your favorite to teach?
This is kind of like asking which one is your favorite child. However, it so happens that Religion 480, Church Organization Leadership, is my brainchild. The other BYUs don't teach this class. I think the Institute has Principles of Leadership, but this is not a Principles of Leadership class. This is a class that I created here at BYU-Hawaii in 2001, precisely to give people, sort of a primer in leadership in the church, but primer on the organization of the church, how the church is structured, how priesthood government takes place through councils, and how men and women should participate in these councils. And I talk about managing our meetings, Sunday meetings, worship services, and we go into oratory in the church. So it's a class that if one day a person is called to serve in presidency, whether in a relief society or elders quorum or bishopric or stake high council, they will have some basic information on what am I doing? What am I supposed to do? And we talk about the finances of the church and member councils. Nowadays used to be, disciplinary councils, now member councils, all these things. So for those who are members of the church, it gives them a very, very good foundation and said, here's what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is about. For those who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I do have members of other faiths taking that class, it gives them very good information about what the church is all about, how it functions. And one of the things that I aim with for them is for them to become friends of the church. I often say in my religion classes that it's not my role as a religion professor at a university, to convert the students. My role as an educator is to inform accurately, give them correct, accurate information, and help them understand that information. Now, matters of belief, what they're going to believe in, what they're going to practice, these are matters that are beyond grading. I don't have any control over that. It's not my role. In the classroom, I'm a university professor teaching a religion class. I'm not their bishop's, friend or stake president, representative. No, it's not. So these classes then, for somebody who belongs to another religious denomination, they become informational in that sense. And I hope that they can appreciate who we are, what we believe in, why we believe in this way, and also how we function. And they will see that in the way the church is organized and the way the church functions, they will find a lot of principles that are going to be equally applicable in managerial leadership, in organizations, whether, corporations or humanitarian service organizations, you name it. So the church organization leadership class is kind of my brainchild. The other courses, not that I prefer one over the other, but the other courses are not my brainchild.
Right.
But church leadership is. So I would say, yeah, that's my baby.
Yeah, it's your
quote
baby.
Unquote.
Yeah, that's
Your
really
favorite.
incredible. So have you been able to expand? Has the curriculum of that class, has that been shared to other universities?
No, because for that to happen, they would have to go through correlation, the Department of Correlation in Salt Lake City, and that would be a lot of paperwork, and I was never interested in that. And no, this is my baby and my brainchild. I have control over the materials that are going to be used and so on. So I never had an interest. And, my colleagues, across the pond, in the mainland, they know about this class, but I don't sense that there's been any interest in any of them to pick up. In fact, when I went on my mission, when my wife and I went on our mission to Brazil, during those 3 years, even my colleagues here were not interested in teaching that class. And I told them, look, some of you have been bishops, you could teach this. In fact, a couple of them had served as mission presidents as well. So you could teach this class. Okay, fine. Because it's an elective anyway. And so so I fear that when I leave BYU-Hawaii, this course will go the way of all the earth as well, probably.
That's a bummer.
So we'll see. So whoever, takes that class, whoever wants to take that class, better take it while I'm here.
Yeah, I'm so
edition.
glad
When I'm gone,
it.
probably the course will also cease to exist as well. Who knows? We'll see.
For sure. And speaking about academia, can you wind the clock back for us a bit and talk about your academic career, like where you started at school and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, wind back the clock. Okay. Okay, there it is.
I have everyone listening to this in their AirPods.
Okay,
Love
right.
that.
Our technician
sensory
there
thing.
must be now said, who is this guy? But well, actually, I started my college career as a civil engineering major in Brazil in 1977. That was my first love, is civil engineering. But lack of money and the need to work. Well, first I went on a mission in 1978. When I came back, I got married soon after, a few months after, and with the need of supporting a family in Brazil, it took me quite a while to go back to school. When I finally was able to go back, I could not afford engineering. And in Brazil, in a lot of private universities, you have different prices of tuition. Different amount of tuition is different from one major to another. And so when I finally was able to return to the university, I could not afford going back to engineering, but I could afford to pay for business. So I started in business. Okay. So when I came to the United States in 1990, to finish my studies, I figured that at that point I was working in the computer industry, and I figured, well, let me go to computer science. So I went to Provo, to BYU Provo, And I realized that it would take me probably 5 years to graduate. And I thought, by the time I graduate, my oldest children are going to be college students. And I said, I couldn't bear the thought of being in the same class as my kids. So I went across the street there in Provo, on the Provo campus, went to the business school, and I found that if I transferred some of the credits that I had in business and some of the credits also that I had in engineering, to work, to use them towards business classes and GE classes, that I could graduate in a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what I did. So I finished my bachelor's finally in a year and a half. But then I thought, well, going back to Brazil just with a bachelor's degree, it's bananas. So so I went on to a master's, and halfway through the master's, I had an opportunity to pursue a PhD. Actually, I was told to pursue a PhD, really. Something that I had never, considered. I used to joke, I'm PhD, I'm too young to die. Besides, I'm a DID because I did stuff in life. Because I had been a consultant and so on in computers.
Right.
But I realized, I said, look, this is something that I have to take very seriously. So in 1994, I began my, in 1993, 30 years ago, I began my study towards a doctorate. And I did something I don't recommend anybody doing, because I did my doctorate in about 3.5 years. I don't recommend anybody to do that, okay? I almost went nuts, okay? Literally almost went nuts. But at that point, I was thinking, look, I want to go back to Brazil, of course. I want to go back to my country and help out and so on. Well, Brazil at the time was in a terrible economic recession, and I couldn't get a job there. So I finally then realized, look, I have to look for a job in the United States. I have bills to pay. I have teenage children at that point, and now we had a fourth child also. And so I accepted a position at Ricks College, which today is BYU, Idaho. And I was there for 3 years. And I can say now that after all these years, we can be free. They were not interested in, keeping me there. And so they said that they were not interested in sponsoring my residency in the United States. And I said, oh, okay, fine. So I thought, so they gave me continuing factor status. So, I was a quote-unquote tenured professor there. But I knew that once my work visa would expire, I was going to be invited to leave the country. So that's when BYU-Hawaii came and offered me a position here to come and lead the religion program. And so that's my, did I wind up the clock?
I think
Yes,
pretty,
no,
yeah,
that was
that's
perfect.
a good wind there.
The only thing I didn't talk about was, the times when I was wearing diapers and so on. But so I didn't
Maybe
wind
next
the clock all the way
episode,
back.
Okay, I'm gonna request we rewind it one more time, because you talked about before you started with your civil engineering, and then you went on a mission and you were married, and then you've continued your schooling. So let's talk about your mission. And you have a pretty neat story
The first mission.
Yes, your first mission with you were gonna get married, and then plans changed, and then you did get married eventually. But do you want to kind of tell our listeners what that story was?
It's not if I want to tell. Look, you are the customer here, okay? I'm your guest.
Will you please?
You tell me what you want to know, and I'll tell you. So, what do you want to say? Well, I want to say the church is true, and that's it. Goodbye. Okay, no. Okay, so, yes, I was working and going to school, and my sweetheart had returned from her mission. And this was in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And this was 1978. We were making plans to get married. In fact, we already had our invitations out. Wow. We were going to get married on August 5th, 1978. Well, on June 8th, 2 months earlier, President Spencer W. Kimball, his counselors, and 10 of the 12 apostles received that revelation, extending the priesthood ordination to all worthy men in the church, regardless of race or color. And I had a stake president at the time who would not take no for an answer. So he challenged me to postpone my wedding and go on a mission. Initially, I told him, "You got to be kidding me! I'm getting married in 2 months.
Right.
Forget it. Too late. Too late." But as I said, he wouldn't take no for an answer. So, long story short, with the support of my sweetheart, my fiancée, and her family, my parents. So in 1978, we postponed our wedding. So instead of getting married on August 5th, 1978, I entered the MTC, the brand new MTC in São Paulo, Brazil, on August 8th, 78.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of my first mission. Wow. And I served in the Brazil São Paulo North mission. And I mentioned that because apparently because of some information I received later, I had been reassigned to that mission. I was supposed to have served in southern Brazil. There was an article in the church news saying that I was serving in southern Brazil. And I said, look, I'm not in southern Brazil. I'm in southeast Brazil. That's not a typo. What's going on here? So I realized that, oh, no, there was a reassignment there. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because 33 years later, when I was called to serve as a mission president, I was called to preside that same mission.
Wow.
And it was only then, in 2011, that I realized that that was really the mission I was supposed to have served.
Wow.
Because until then, I had this, it was kind of I was supposed to go southern Brazil, but they told me to wait in the São Paulo North mission, so somebody decided, might as well stay there. And so I always thought that my service in the São Paulo North mission was one of those kind of might as well stay on that mission.
Sure.
And only 2011, I realized, I said, no, that was really the place where I was supposed to serve. And so I hope those who are listening, if you had a situation where you were reassigned on your mission because of COVID or whatever, just realize, I said, look, you served in the right mission. Okay? Don't worry, you served in the right mission. Time will tell you. Time will show that you were in the right place.
I totally agree. I served. Well, I was called to Singapore, but then I had to serve in Southern California, or I got to serve. I won't say got to serve in Southern California for a year and a half, and then went to Singapore after that. But it's so true, right? You never know how that's going to pay off. Yeah. The reason, right? It'll pay off at some point.
And that's a really cool story it was, I'm sure, a full circle moment, especially because you were now in this mission again, but with your wife this time.
Yes.
So that's really incredible.
Really great.
Awesome.
And she was a great missionary. In fact, on my first mission, I had one of my zone leaders at the end of my mission had been one of her baptisms on her mission. It was really, really cool.
Oh my
and
goodness.
And I had other missionaries who met her. They were from southern Brazil, who met her on her mission. She said, oh, yeah, your fiancée, she was a great missionary. She baptized a lot of people there in my stake. And so they knew her.
Wow.
So it was really cool. So going back and being mission leaders, she loved to go out with the sister missionaries. She would go to other cities and, spend the day with some of the sister missionaries because she loves missionary work. We both do. In fact, we still want to serve another mission.
Oh, wow.
Proselyting mission. Okay, proselyting mission. We don't want to be leaders of anything. We just want to be there teaching
That's so
lessons.
cool.
Maybe
We hope that...
you can be missionaries here. We can proselyte.
No. We really want to be proselyting. Okay?
Yeah.
Not be teaching here on campus, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay? But I've taught here on campus enough already.
Yeah.
Okay? No, we want to be there, meeting people, bringing people back to activity. That's really what we want to do. So that's one of the in our bucket list. After my retirement in a few years, it's in our plans to go on another mission.
Wow.
That would be so amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were the first Black man to serve a mission. Is that correct?
After the Revelation 1978, yes. The first Black man to serve as a full-time missionary was in the 19th century, Brother Elijah Abel.
Gotcha.
But in the 20th century, after the Revelation, officially, I was the first.
And
unofficially, there were some other people who
Sure.
served, but they passed as white, so nobody noticed.
Oh.
That's a matter for another podcast.
Sure.
That's so amazing. That's a really, really cool experience. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. And besides you've served how many missions? 3, 4?
2.
2?
Two.
It'll be three.
Full-time
Yeah,
mission.
okay, two full-time.
Two.
Three's trying to third time's the charm or something. How does that saying go?
I hope so.
I hope so.
You know, I need to retire.
That'll
first.
it's the third mission that'll get him into the celestial kingdom.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Final countdown. So besides being a professor, besides being a missionary several times, you're also a best-selling author.
I wouldn't say best-selling author. What happened was in 2007, I happened to publish a book through a publishing house that no longer exists. They went out of business not long after that. Millennial Press. They were publishing a series of books on matters that were considered controversial,
Sure.
polygamy, blacks in the priesthood, Freemasonry. And because there was no official information about blacks in the priesthood, the book sold out very, very quickly. And so for a week, it was on the Deseret
bestseller.
Books best-selling list.
Got a best-selling author.
Hey, it
But the
counts.
thing is that the publisher was fairly small, and so they didn't have the means to produce enough copies to meet the demand, and so it was short-lived. So it was a bestseller for 1 week, and then they ran out of copies, and it took another couple of months for more copies to come into the market. So, and by then the publisher was kind of in shaky financial situation. So, in a matter of a few months, they went out of business.
Okay. Is there another book you've written? I think I've heard of
Yeah.
it. What is it called?
Yeah, I wrote a manuscript in 2017 titled "The Priesthood: Earthly Symbols and Heavenly Realities," where I talk about the doctrine of the priesthood, and I talk about several matters on priesthood keys and symbolism, and women in the priesthood, how women receive the priesthood through temple ordinances, and also the highest order of the Melchizedek priesthood, which is the new and everlasting covenant of marriage. So I have this manuscript. The thing is that in 2017, some of the publishers considered the book way too, let's say,
Honest.
no, way too groundbreaking,
Yeah.
really avant-garde almost, and they were scared. They didn't want to publish. So they said, we like what you wrote, but don't you have some general authorities to back you up? And I said, no, general authorities don't write about the stuff that I wrote here. Well, now general authorities, now 2023, general authorities do talk about it. So now I'm refurbishing the manuscript and putting more spice into it. I said, so those things
Spice
that
is
I
good.
was scared to write in 2017, well, I'm a sexagenarian now, and I'm going to put those things in the book and send out to the publishers. Let's see what happens this time. So hopefully by the end of this year, 2023, I should have the manuscript, expanded manuscript out, and hopefully, crossing my fingers here, by this time it will be published. So the priesthood,
Wow.
earthly symbols, and heavenly realities.
So cool.
That's amazing.
Let's see what happens.
I want to read it. Are you? I'm guessing you probably you've been able to share it with like close family and friends, even though
I shared it with you,
you.
all of you in class.
Oh yeah.
Bits and pieces. All of you got bits and
I was
pieces on my
gonna
book
say.
because you have been, and also all these devotionals and firesides that I've spoken in many countries. All of you have been my test audiences.
Wow.
I presented some of these ideas, and I kind of gauged. So look, how are people receiving this? Am I getting some pushback here? Are people
Right.
thinking? Are people looking at me with that look and say, "What did this guy have for breakfast this morning?" Kind of.
Right.
So no, and I looked at some of the, especially in the papers the students have written when they made reference to some of the ideas that I presented, and said, look, okay, this is how they understood, or maybe I should have made myself a little clearer. Maybe the language that I use could be tweaked a little bit to be more clear about things. So that's what I have done in my classes. So all of you heard bits and pieces of my book over the years.
That's awesome. And have you gotten any pushback at all from students? Have you ever had students that were like, I don't know how I feel about this?
Yeah,
or
I
had
did.
questions?
There was a time, for example, one semester that I had a student who wrote in the student evaluation that I was teaching false doctrines,
Oh,
saying that
no.
women receive the priesthood. until President Russell M. Nelson in 2019 said that women do receive the priesthood. And I thought, well, I guess I'm in good company now. So I'm teaching false doctrine, so is the prophet. Okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was a joke, okay, folks? Hello. That was just a joke, okay? All right.
Well, and I also think that, yeah, the church organization and leadership class really, I feel like for me, emphasized the specifics of women do not have keys, but they, right?
Oh, I don't have keys either.
But they...
I used to when I was a bishop or a bishop president, but now I don't. The only key I have is right here in my pocket, the key to my house, but that's not priesthood.
Yeah.
Okay.
But women, they do have like the ability to exercise.
Authority.
They have the authority to exercise.
Yeah.
the
No,
priesthood,
that's something that I try to make very clear. Pretty much in all my classes, I teach about priesthood, whether it's eternal family or church leadership or doctrine and covenants. We have chances to talk about priesthood. And I always try to emphasize that, look, women do exercise authority in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's clearer now in what I call the Russell and Nelson dispensation.
Yes.
Clearer than,
Absolutely.
say, when I joined the church in the Harold B. Lee time or the Spencer W. Kimball time. But now with President Russell M. Nelson, not the President Gordon B. Hinckley or President Thomas S. Monson didn't. They did. But they use very careful language.
Right.
And President Nelson has been a little more explicit on that. And you can see how they put women front and center, not just conference center that they sit with the general authorities. Because before they used to sit on the side of the conference center. Now they sit in the middle of the general authorities. But also how they are now members of some of the leading the liberative councils in the church, the leading advisory councils in the church, like the Melchizedek priesthood, the temple and family, how they are front and center right there as members of those committees. I would not be surprised, and this is pure speculation here, but I would not be surprised if in the future we see locally, at the ward and stake level, women serving as executive secretaries or ward or stake clerks. I would not be surprised because there's nothing in the scriptures that say that it has to be somebody who is ordained to the priesthood to serve there.
Yeah.
In the handbook, we say, it has to be a Melchizedek priesthood holder, but it's not in the scriptures. If it is not in the scriptures, the prophets may change that.
Yeah.
And we have so many capable women who are great organizers. And sort of, hey, we could use these women. Man, our stake offices and ward offices would be so well organized. Everything would be on top. Because, we used to send those jokes via email. You remember email, right? I know you're young.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're a Mormon if, you're a Mormon if you teach a Relief Society and you apologize for not having a centerpiece. And then the next phrase was, you're a Mormon if you teach priesthood and apologize for not having a lesson. That kind of, they say, we tend to be pretty disorganized, but our women, they give a run for the men's money. And so I look at that and say, I would love to see women serving, in these positions, because these are very important positions. Okay, remember, record keeping. If you look at Doctrine and Covenants, section 128, the record keeping is essential to the connection between temporal work and earthly work and heavenly work. The ordinance we perform here on mortal earth need to be recorded. Our actions need to be recorded so they can be validated on the other side of the veil. And women can do that, in a phenomenal way. They're excellent to do that. And there's nothing in the scriptures that say that, a ward clerk, or stake clerk or stake executive secretary, ward executive secretary have to be. No, a clerk does not do anything by laying on of hands. They lay their fingers on the computer keyboard, but that's about it. It's not a priesthood ordinance.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's just me, okay? So
no, that honestly.
Stay tuned. Let's see what happens. Okay?
That honestly really puts things into perspective for me personally, because there are specific positions such as bishops and, general authorities that you do have to have.
Because you have to lay hands and set people apart. Yeah, you have to use. But there are others that you don't exercise priesthood you don't officiate priesthood ordinances.
Right.
So I don't see any problem.
Yeah. There you go.
Absolutely. And I think too with that, because you're very knowledgeable, how do you keep on learning? How do you continue to have a love for learning even though you have so much knowledge that you've attained over the years?
Here's the thing, okay? How do you keep learning? The answer is right on the question. You just continue to study. Sometimes there are years in which I read more books than when I was in graduate school.
Wow.
Okay, I try to look at the world around me. I'm a sociologist. I'm a social scientist. What's going on in the world? Yeah. How do I become better informed about what's going on politically, economically, technologically, and how does that affect? Because my field is sociology of religion, which is essentially how are religions or religious denominations affected by the environment in which they exist, and how do they affect the environment? How do they affect societies, and how are they affected by societies? So, I watch documentaries, I read the newspapers every day. My ritual, I begin very early in the morning, read the newspapers, local, national, international, and find out what's going on. And when there is a new technology, how does that work? Last week, for example, I was writing about artificial intelligence.
Oh, yes.
Because there is one of the big questions now in early 2023. We have students writing, papers, using artificial intelligence. Well, okay. I looked at that and said, look, I'm not a Luddite, a neo-modern Luddite. And so I don't have a problem with that, provided that we use in certain ways, for example, as idea generator and so on. So, but I had to study the technology instead of just on a knee-jerk reaction, say, thou shalt not use Chat GPT or whatever. No, I'm not going to do that. And so, look, let me understand the technology and see, okay, oh yeah, people have sometimes trouble starting a paper. Okay, so you can start a paper, using, one of these tools. But I want to see the first draft generated by AI, and then I want to see the final draft, which is AI plus a substantial amount of writing by the student. So I want to see what was AI and what was SI, student intelligence.
Right.
Okay.
I like that. And I remember something you told 4 years ago. I was in your class a long time ago.
You still remember it.
Right?
That's awesome.
Still remember.
The highlight of winter 2019. I remember you said something because we were talking about some difficult topics in church history, such as polygamy, race in the priesthood and such, and you were very open in talking about them. And you said something that I remember to this day, that you have questions but you don't have doubts.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little more about that and just how people can approach difficult subjects of the church?
Well, it's this, okay? Take polygamy or blacks in the priesthood. The people who are involved in the decisions that led to those practices, they're not available for comment.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to second guess Joseph Smith or Brigham Young until I can talk to them. So I have to wait until I can go to a fireside with one of them, which I hope doesn't happen for another 20, 25 years, okay? And then I said, excuse me, can I ask a question here? And they're probably going to say, oh, look, we're sick and tired of answering the same question, but okay, Brother Martins, you have some credit in the house, you served 2 missions, go ahead, ask your question. And so we simply don't have, we have a lot of historians' interpretations and social scientists' insights into possible reasons why some of these practices took place. But we don't have firsthand information, their own writing, their own comments, their own reasoning. We don't have that. And so in 2021, for example, I spoke to an audience there of religious educators in Utah, and I told them, look, don't try to be Brigham Young's lawyer. Okay, he has a savior, his advocate, so he doesn't need us to be lawyers. And so that's why I said, look, I have some questions, but I don't have any doubts. Were those men prophets of the Lord? Yes, they were. Do I understand everything they did? No, I don't. But until I can talk to them and ask, look, what were you thinking? I'm not going to make any judgments. Okay?
That's good.
And you're not going to let it doubt the truths that you do know and that you have come to witness firsthand. So
I wish I had said that. That was pretty cool.
So wow, I love that so much. And I also, one thing that I've heard recently is that has just reminded me that the Savior and Heavenly Father, they work to further the work through imperfect people.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that none of it's true, because imperfect people make mistakes.
Well, I served as a bishop twice. I served as a mission president. Can I honestly say that everything I did was, A-okay, 100%? No, it was not. But there was an atonement. The Lord makes up for my deficiencies. Okay, and where apologies were required, I apologized. I have met with many of my former missionaries. In fact, every time I go to Brazil, I have a chance to visit with some of my missionaries, and we've made peace with several things that took place that I could have handled a little better, perhaps, and so on. And that's how we move forward, by saying, look, there was an atonement. If mistakes have been made, Jesus Christ took the beating for those mistakes. So what else do I want? Well, I shouldn't want anything else. Yeah. And so the same forgiveness that I want for me, I should extend to others, and that's how we move on. But yes, the church is the Lord's embassy, the embassy of the kingdom of heaven here on the earth. And the Lord could have sent angels here, perfect people, to take care of the work. But no, he chose us. And so I remember when I joined the church in 1972, we used to say this a lot. They said, the church is like a hospital. Okay, we find all kinds of diseases inside. But the good thing is that people are in the right place. Mm-hmm. They are in the place where they can find the healing. But sometimes, the dosage of a medicine was not the correct one. We have to adjust and so on. This is how it is. The same thing happens in spiritual matters as well. And so we're learning. The important thing is to find out whether we are learning to be better. And we have, prophets since President Howard W. Hunter in the mid-1990s. So let's be more gentle. Let's be more kind. Let's be more forgiving, more loving. And we had the successive prophets talking about this. And in fact, recently, I have been speaking about this. I said, look, this is the fuel for the priesthood. Kindness, gentleness, those principles of righteousness that are listed in Doctrine and Covenants, section 121. Okay, brotherly kindness, charity, so persuasion, long-suffering. These are the fuel for the exercise of priesthood power and authority.
Wow, I'm speechless. I feel like I'm going to listen to this back over and over. Thank you so much for sharing that wisdom and that knowledge with us. I feel like I personally have already learned so much just from this short little podcast with you, and I'm sure many others will learn just as much.
Absolutely.
Eli, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Me too. I feel like I just read a whole book too. I'm excited to read his book when it comes out.
Yeah, me too.
Well, me too.
Fingers crossed that it gets through. Yeah. Well, we're running out of time, but thank you so much for coming on here. And
thank you guys for having me here. Appreciate this opportunity. Okay, it's been wonderful to be with you again.
Yes, thank you. We are so grateful. You're an amazing human, and I'm just grateful that we're getting to learn from someone as
an amazing human. Okay, about those $20. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a few in my pocket. No, we're just kidding. Well, thank you to all of our listeners for listening to this episode. If you haven't taken a class from Brother Martins, sign up for fall semester. Because, are you going to be here in the fall?
I hope so.
Okay, I didn't know if you make that face because you're like, actually,
fingers crossed.
I'm not planning to have a heart attack or anything. But,
So, take advantage of this opportunity to learn from him while he is still here at BYU-Hawaii. We are so lucky to have him as a professor. And thanks again for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.